headlines of this hour on VTV News. A commemoration ceremony was held to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Geneva Accords. And Vietnam emerges as fastest growing digital economy in ASEAN. In our world news, U.S. President signs $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Indo-Pacific.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. local time and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyen Tan with the top stories. The commemoration ceremony for the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Geneva Accords, which ended hostilities in Vietnam, took place solemnly on Thursday in Hanoi. Do Văn Chiến, a member of the party Central Committee and chairman of the Vietnam Fatherland Front, Lê Hoài Trung, a member of the party Central Committee, head of the Central External Relations Commission, and Deputy Prime Minister Trần Lưu Quang attended the event. Alongside the victory of Dien Bien Phu, the Geneva Accords signed on July 21, 1954, concluded the Vietnamese people's colonial resistance. Speaking at the commemoration ceremony, Deputy Prime Minister Trần Lưu Quang affirmed that the Geneva Accords marked the first time in history that Vietnam's fundamental national rights were recognized in an international treaty and acknowledged and respected by the countries and parties attending the conference. The brilliant spirit, courage, and diplomatic identity of Vietnam in the era of Ho Chi Minh were demonstrated through the Geneva Accords and must be further promoted in current times. The Geneva Conference officially opened in April 1954 to discuss the post-war situation on the Korean Peninsula and Indochina. On July 21, 1954, the Geneva Accords were signed after 75 days of intense and complex negotiations, marking the first time in the nation's history for a guarantee of fundamental national rights of Vietnam, independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity. Alongside the victory of Dien Bien Phu, the Accords completely ended the colonial domination of the old imperialism that had lasted nearly 100 years in the country, ushering in a new chapter in the cause of national liberation and reunification.
On May 8, 1954, the Geneva Conference began discussing the situation in Indochina. 9 parties attended this conference with different strategic interests. After the victory at Dien Bien Phu, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam delegation led by Deputy Prime Minister Phạm Văn Đồng. On July 21, 1954, the Geneva Accords were signed after 75 days of intense negotiations. Peace was restored in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia.
For the first time, the fundamental national rights of Vietnam, independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity had been affirmed in an international accords. Along with the Dien Bien Phu victory, the Geneva Accords completely ended the colonialism that lasted nearly 100 years in Vietnam.
President Ho Chi Minh understood that the victory at Dien Bien Phu gave a lot of strength to his negotiators in Geneva.
At the age of 103, Major General Huỳnh Đắc Hương still recalls the days after the Geneva Accords.
At that time, Region 5 was almost completely liberated. But then we had to withdraw troops for the northern side of the 17th parallel.
In 1956, the last French soldier left Vietnam. The North was completely liberated.
Throughout the process of negotiating, signing and implementing the accords, Vietnam consistently adhered to the principles of peace, national independence, and territorial integrity, while remaining agile and flexible with a strategy appropriate to the balance of power and the global and regional context in order to achieve strategic objectives.
In the diplomatic poster from the Geneva Conference, Many valuable lessons were learned, among which the lesson of perseverance in protecting national interests still remains valid until this day.
Vietnam has been the fastest growing digital economy in ASEAN in 2022 and 2023, and it is expected to maintain this position until 2025, according to HSBC experts. HSBC believes that Vietnam's digital economy will continue to grow. The sector contributed 16.5% to the GDP last year, and more than 1,500 Vietnamese digital technology enterprises have gained revenue from foreign markets. In a recent HSBC survey, 60% of businesses operating in Vietnam said that they intended to invest in technology and digitalization for their current business operations. Their focus will be on digital payments, e-commerce, and artificial intelligence. Cashless payment has emerged as a new normal in today's digital society. However, some aspects of technology hasn't caught up to trend, as the number of point-of-sale or POS machines are falling short of actual demands. To tackle this problem, Vietnam has introduced soft POS solution, a technology that allows merchants to accept card payments directly on smartphones.
For a young customer like Phương Anh, cashless payment has become part of daily life. The introduction of soft POS has made it even easier for her to purchase.
When using a card, I had to enter PIN code, swipe the card, and wait for the machine to print out invoices. Now all of these steps are done using a single smartphone.
Shop owners can also benefit from this new solution.
The new soft POS machine cost me $8 per month in rent, excluding higher transaction fee. Cash flow management is made transparent. When one transaction is completed, a notification is sent right on the apps, so cashiers and shop owners can verify immediately.
As one of the available cashless payment methods, tap-to-phone solutions accept card payments from Visa, Master, NAPAS, or Apple Pay, thereby presenting small and medium enterprises and business households more to choose from.
Customers only need to download an app and follow our verification instructions. After that, they can accept card payment.
To tap-to-pay solution is expected to promote Vietnam as a cashless payment country, thereby attracting more international tourists.
According to a report at the Conference on Human Resource Development for the Semiconductor Industry, hosted by Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính on Wednesday, Vietnam is experiencing a unique opportunity to develop the semiconductor sector. For Vietnam to engage more deeply in the global semiconductor industry value chain, it must demonstrate to international partners that it has adequate capacities and resources. The Ministry of Planning and Investment is developing a project to train a 50,000 strong semiconductor workforce by 2030. During the conference, several solutions were suggested to help Vietnam achieve this ambitious goal.
Semiconductor chip manufacturing includes the following steps: design, manufacturing, testing, and packaging. Many experts have stressed the necessity of detailed allocation and planning in the Semiconductor Human Resources Development Project.
We will secure an advantage when entering the semiconductor stages, which focus on human resources rather than financial resources. The chip manufacturing process requires several steps. Each step requires different demands. Therefore, the implementation plans for each step also vary.
Good teachers play a crucial role in educating qualified students. By 2030, Vietnam will provide intensive training for 1,300 lecturers.
It's said that students majoring in this field can earn high income. But how can we retain the teaching team that trains students with such dream income levels if there is no special mechanism?
Ho Chi Minh City National University has set a goal to train 1,800 new semiconductor engineers by 2030.
Hypothetically, if the National University is the investor and the universities in Ho Chi Minh City share that laboratory, where would the laboratory running costs come from? We can't give it all away. The challenge is to define the financial mechanism for resource sharing.
Many participants at the conference believe that more specific policies on output for businesses are needed to address the employment of 50,000 semiconductor workers in the future.
In the first 4 months of this year, the wood industry regained growth momentum, reaching more than $4.8 billion, a nearly 24% increase over the same period last year. The United States, China, and Japan are Vietnam's 3 largest export markets for wood products, with the U.S. market dominating. Businesses predict that this year will present many opportunities due to increasing housing demand in the U.S., especially for wooden houses.
These 30 wooden houses have been successfully exported to the US. This initial success opens up many opportunities for the business to receive more export orders for hundreds of precious wooden houses. To accomplish this, the business must expand the factory to 12 hectares to store materials and conduct research.
We know what each market needs, especially as each state in the US has a different standard. We must meet those standards to export to this market.
For this business, orders are currently available until the end of April, and exports have increased by more than 40% over the same period. Businesses recognize that although the market has not returned to the level of 2022, this favorable start will serve as a premise for businesses to regain growth momentum.
Besides the main markets of the US and Europe, we also have smaller markets such as the Middle East, Australia, and some Asian markets. We take full advantage of these markets to increase sales.
This year, the wood industry reset its target to $17.5 billion. The US market, which accounts for more than half of the turnover, is showing signs of recovery, and the number of orders is increasing sharply.
The purchasing power of the US market did not decrease as much as expected. We are also waiting for markets such as South Korea, Japan, the UK, and China to recover.
Another positive sign is the decreasing inventory available to buyers, leading to an increase in orders. It's worth highlighting the popularity of outdoor furniture made from natural and environmentally friendly materials. Currently, international customers are shortening order and delivery times to avoid risks associated with fluctuations in prices and shipping costs.
Now let's take a look at the foreign exchange rate of today, April 25th. Coming up next on VTV News. Vietnamese-Philippine Coast Guards convene first bilateral conference. And we'll take a look at stamp collections imprinted with national historic events. You're watching at VTV News Live. The first bilateral conference between the Vietnam Coast Guard and the Philippine Coast Guard took place in Hanoi on Wednesday. Both sides will actively attend training courses and conferences hosted by each other, responsibly engage in activities within multilateral frameworks of which both are members, and continue to enhance information exchange on maritime law enforcement, combating piracy and armed robbery, and search and rescue. In the future, both parties agreed to enhance collaboration in maritime law enforcement in accordance with international law. This serves their mutual goal of a secure, safe, and a prosperous maritime environment. Since Wednesday afternoon, numerous localities have experienced damage due to hailstorms, with agricultural areas being the hardest hit. This year has seen an unusual frequency of hailstorms in various parts of the country, from mountainous regions to plains and coastal areas. More on this in the following.
In Lào Cai, 2 hailstorms lasting from 5 to 10 minutes occurred Wednesday night in Khánh Yên Trung, Khánh Yên Thượng communes in Văn Bàn town. The size of hailstones reached up to 3 centimeters. This caused many ornamental plants to break and fall. puncturing the roofs of some households' thatched houses. In Seoul, the hailstorm lasting about 30 minutes occurred in Longluang Commune, Banho District. The hailstorm did not cause casualties, but damaged about 400 hectares of flowers and perennial fruit trees and punctured over 30 houses. In Hòa Bình, Mai Châu District, a 20-minute hailstorm hit the villages of Hang Kia and Pa Co Wednesday afternoon. It covered the roadside of National Highway 6, passing through Mai Châu District and damaged many farming areas. In Quảng Nam, a significant hailstorm occurred in Tây Giang District. The hailstorm hit the Gari Commune for over 10 minutes, causing damage to many medicinal herbs, especially Ngọc Linh ginseng. Other localities such as Phú Thọ and Vĩnh Phúc also experienced hailstorms on Wednesday, with hailstones as large as pebbles.
Vietnam has achieved another significant milestone as yet another factory attains carbon neutrality, underscoring its commitment to offsetting emissions by absorbing an equivalent amount through various projects. This accomplishment represents a significant step forward in Vietnam's journey towards achieving its goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Under the carbon neutral certification, the Vietnam beverage factory has successfully neutralized over 3,400 tons of carbon emissions. These initiatives include implementing 6 strategies, such as energy-saving measures, utilizing leftover food as plant fertilizer, recycling cans, promoting bicycle and electric vehicle usage, and transitioning to digital record keeping. April 25th is World Malaria Day. This dangerous infectious disease is caused by parasites transmitted by Anopheles mosquitoes and can lead to many severe complications. Vietnam aims to eliminate malaria by 2030, but many challenges remain.
Dang Van Ngữ Hospital, part of the Central Institute of Malariology, Parasitology and Entomology, recently admitted 2 young men for malaria treatment. Both had contracted malaria several times while working in Africa. This time, upon returning to Vietnam, they exhibited symptoms of malaria. Their test results were positive for the falciparum malaria parasite.
If not treated promptly, malaria can cause many dangerous complications. Early diagnosis and timely treatment with specific medications can reduce critical situations.
From the beginning of the year until now, the country has recorded 130 cases of malaria, double the number during the same period last year. Most of these cases are still in Khánh Hòa. Apart from cases returning from Africa, surveillance in malaria endemic areas remains difficult because the disease occurs mostly in mountainous areas and managing a mobile population is still complicated.
One of the WHO's warning is that drug-resistant mosquitoes in Africa could spread to Vietnam. If this pandemic truly reaches Vietnam, treating patients will be extremely challenging. Some provinces remain indifferent to this issue and lack of the resources to address it.
Vietnam is so close to eliminating malaria, but as any runner will tell you, the last mile of any marathon is nearly always the hardest. So we need to intensify our collective efforts to reach the highest risk groups in order to reach the goal of malaria elimination in Vietnam.
The most important solutions are ensuring all cases are detected and treated promptly, and mosquitoes are controlled through spraying.
In recent days, numerous meaningful activities have been organized across the country to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the historic Dien Bien Phu victory. This is an opportunity for people, especially the younger generation, to learn and discover backstories about this heroic campaign. 70 years ago, the Dien Bien Phu campaign had the code name Trần Đình. To achieve this resounding success, the confidentiality of the campaign was strictly maintained, with all officers, soldiers, and civilians on the front line adhering strictly to it.
Under the slogan, all resources dedicated to the front line and for the victory, soldiers, civil servants, and young volunteers from all parts of the Northwest passionately participated in a secret campaign from January to March 1954. The campaign's name and the next destination were unknown, yet all were eager to contribute to the battlefield's efforts.
Just say you're going on a special mission. Then, when we got to Pha Dien Pass, the political officer announced that we would head towards the sound of gunfire. We would participate in the Chen Ding campaign.
The Chen Ding campaign had 5 brigades, each with different code names: Bến Tre, Việt Bắc, Biên Hòa, Nam Định, and Long Châu. The campaign also mobilized up to 30,000 citizens and 20,000 vehicles. However, the secrecy was still closely guarded.
This is the backpack bag of Ma Van Thang in Phu Tho province. He transported food, weapons, and ammunition to support the campaign. There were times when he carried 300 kilograms of goods. The total weight of goods he delivered to the Dien Bien Phu campaign was up to 3,780 kilograms.
The entire party, army and people concentrated their forces and joint efforts to create an important historical mark that was the largest attack on the last stronghold of the French colonialists. It was also called the historical rendezvous.
Inspired by the patriotism and courage of the Vietnamese army and people, the Chen Ding campaign or Dien Bien Phu campaign claimed a globally recognized triumph. Chen Ding is no longer just a code name of the campaign, but has become synonymous with the pride of generations of Vietnamese people.
Reunification Day remains a source of pride for the Vietnamese people, even after nearly 5 decades. Each Vietnamese person has their own way of expressing pride towards this historical milestone. For an art teacher in the Binh Thuy district of Cần Thơ City, collecting stamps depicting the victory on April 30th, 1975 is his effort to preserve the heroic memories of the nation.
Những cái tem bưu chính nó không chỉ đơn thuần là
Postage stamps are not simply for postal service, but also for the exchange of information from one place to another. Each stamp can convey cultural features as well as portray people. As a Southwest inhabitant, I'm very proud and happy to own a rare stamp collection that depicts major events of the country. Thanks to my knowledge and experience, I have gained a deeper understanding of the images on stamps through the process of collecting. I currently possess a stamp depicting the day of General Offensive in 1975. This image portrays a tank entering the Independence Palace, signifying the liberation of the South and the reunification of the country. Through my exhibitions, I want to show everyone that Vietnam is an independent and sovereign country. This way, future generations of Vietnamese people will contribute to further developing and safeguarding the country.
Coming up next in our world news. U.S. President signs $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Indo-Pacific. And Russia cuts oil price forecast to $65 per barrel in 2024 to 2027. Now moving on to our world news. U.S. President Joe Biden signed a $95 billion aid package on Wednesday for Ukraine, Israel, and allies in the Indo-Pacific. Passed by the Senate late Tuesday evening, the aid package includes nearly $61 billion for Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, and $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific. The package also contains a bill that could lead to the banning of TikTok in the United States, giving Chinese parent company ByteDance approximately 9 months to sell it, or it will be banned from app stores in the United States. The signing of this aid package is the culmination of 6 months of intense negotiations between members of both houses of the U.S. Congress. Thai authorities issued an extreme heat warning for Bangkok on Wednesday, urging people to stay indoors for their own safety as temperatures soared. The mercury was forecast to hit 39 degrees Celsius in the sprawling Thai capital, while the heat index rose above 52 degrees Celsius, classified as extremely dangerous by city authorities. The kingdom has sweltered through a heat wave this week, with a temperature of 44.2 degrees Celsius recorded in the northern province of Lampang on Monday, just shy of the all-time national record of 44.6 degrees Celsius. April is typically the hottest and most humid time of the year in Thailand, but conditions this year have been exacerbated by the El Nino weather pattern. The Russian Ministry of Economy has downgraded its forecast for the country's crude oil export prices for the next 3 years to $65 per barrel, according to the forecast of Russia's socio-economic development until 2027. The forecasts used to compile the federal budget were cut from previous estimates of $71.3 per barrel for 2024, $70.1 for 2025, and $70 for 2026. Russia has faced numerous sanctions from the West over the conflict in Ukraine, including restrictions on Russian oil purchases, as well as a price cap of $60 per barrel. The downward revision is likely to put more pressure on Russia's budget, which saw a shortfall of $6.56 billion, or 0.3% of the gross domestic product in the first quarter. Still, oil and gas revenue was 79.1% higher in the first 3 months of 2024 than a year earlier, supported by higher commodity prices. Oil exports from Russia are expected to slightly increase this year to 240 million tons, up from 238 million tons in 2023. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app at VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel, VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.